A pleasant afternoon to each and everyone. My name is KB Samson, together with Michelle Padilla, Justine Yourcel, Edlin Yumol, and Aikin Ramirez. We are Group 7, and today we will be your reporter. We will be discussing about customer service at a frontier at Alaska Airlines. But before we dive deeper, I will give you a little information about Alaska Airlines. So, Alaska Airlines is a major American airline headquartered in SeaTac, Washington, within the Seattle metropolitan area. It is the fifth largest airline in the United States when measured by fleet size, scheduled passengers carried, and the number of destinations served. We will now be proceeding at the brief history of Alaska Airlines that will be discussed by Aikin Ramirez. Aikin Ramirez.
Brief history of Alaska Airlines. It was founded in 1930s and traced back to a man named Linnaeus MacG. In 1932, he flew three passenger Stinson aircraft out of Anchorage, called MacG Airways. This was the first strand leading up to the current Alaska Airlines legacy. 1940s. In 1940s, Alaska Airlines gets its name. Star Airlines was operating as Alaska Star Airlines, seeking to grow its influence in the state. The airline continued to purchase up some competitors. Finally, in 1944, the airline got the name that we are familiar with today. It was the Alaska Airlines. 1950s to 1960s. In 1950s, it was the end of charter operations. Alaska Airlines was forced to end its charter business due to a mandate from Civil Aeronautics Board. However, the airlines continued to expand, taking over two other Alaskan carriers. In 1960s, the aviation industry was taken by a storm as jet airliners started to join importance. Alaska Airlines latched on and latched on tight. While in 1970s, the troubling start. The airline faced a significant setback when Flight 1866 from Anchorage to Seattle via Cordova, Yakutat, Genoa, and Sitka crashed in Genoa, caused by incorrect navigational information being sent via beacon, and 111 people lost their lives in the incident. While in 1980s, a careful expansion pays off. Alaska Airlines was able to start expanding in the aftermath of the regulation. Important cities of Portland and San Francisco saw Alaska service beginning in 1979. Then over the next 5 years, the carrier added flights to Southern California, San Jose, Oakland, Phoenix, and Tucson. In addition, the airline resumed service to some remote points of Alaska, and profits at this time were very high. In 1990s to 2000s and onwards, in the early 1990s, Alaska deepened its relationship with Boeing after it started to take on Boeing 737-400s. At the same time, the carrier continued to expand. However, it also faced immense competition. While in 2000, Alaska solidifies its presence, the airline had a bright future on its mind, taking a new Boeing 737 aircraft, including the first ever 737-900. Alaska Airlines expanded with new flights to Boston, Chicago, Dallas, Denver, Miami, Orlando, and Washington. And for the previous processes, Justin and Michelle Dos Reyes.
So here are the previous processes of Alaska's boarding process. First one is the dual door boarding. Customers board simultaneously from the front and back doors of the airplane. The problem is the two waves of passengers collided in the middle, creating a serious traffic jam around row 18. Second one is the window, middle, and aisle boarding. Customers board based on their seat assignment. Customers with window seats go first, then customers with middle seats, then customers with aisle seats. The problem is, travelers didn't always understand their seat assignments. which led to confusion on board and slowed down the boarding process. Third one is the random boarding. Groups of customers are randomly selected and assigned to boarding times, theoretically to spread customers around the aircraft. The problem is total chaos.
Text to board. Customers who opted in received text messages alerting them that it was their turn to board. Biometric boarding. Customers use fingerprints to pass through security checkpoints and board flights instead of juggling paper or mobile boarding passes and IDs. Alaska recently wrapped up a test of biometric boarding in San Jose, California. While the initial test has come to an end, stay tuned as Alaska's research and development team considers the next steps for biometrics. Smartwatch boarding. Customers board using a smartwatch app. While Alaska's debut Apple Watch app did not include boarding passes as a feature, industrious customers say boarding passes to Apple's Passbook app to scan at security checkpoints and the boarding gate.
For the implementation of tools and techniques of Alaska Airlines, we have the 5S Workshop Lead Time, Accelerated Improvement Workshop, and the Lean Six Sigma. So first, let us talk about 5S Workshop Lead Time. So it is basically the process of creating a workplace where unnecessary things have been removed and the items that are left are in location based upon their frequency of use. This process can apply to parts, tools, or information. The intention of workplace organization is to minimize the amount of time spent looking for or sorting the things you need to complete a given task. So let us now proceed with Accelerated Improvement Workshop. It is a rapid, rigorous process where people who do the work reorganize to achieve major reduction in cost and flow time. Data gathering and planning are keys to having a successful event. These events can vary in length from day 1 to 2 weeks. Primarily rely on the learn it, do it model to achieve changes. A subset of AIWs are consult and rapid improvement events. So as for the Lean Six Sigma, it is a rigorous data-driven problem-solving methodology that focuses on eliminating waste and reduces variability in a process, uses statistical analysis to determine which inputs are affecting the outputs desired. So Lean Six Sigma is the tool used by Alaska Airlines in improving their customer service, which involves improvement in services and operation efficiency by reducing defects, variation, and waste. Since the airline has a problem with its customer service because of the waiting time of the customers, Alaska Airlines took a radical approach to redesign its check-in process through self-service kiosks, which allow passengers to check in and facilitate their own baggage drop-off process. So the project significantly reduced the wait times of the passenger and improved its customer service.
So here are the results after tools and techniques has been implemented at Alaska Airlines. The first one is 5SC ramp. The pictures portrays the before and after. The first pictures talks about unorganized, hard to locate items, no standardization, and minimal visual controls. That was later on transformed into easy to recognize visuals, standardized to multiple gates, visual sweep now possible, and equipment can be prepared for next flight. The second result is the AIW boarding processes. It improved the quality of boarding experience of passengers, CFAs, FAs with an emphasis on passenger experience. The second one is it increased the speed of boarding or maintain current speed while still doing the improvement. And lastly, it does not add ongoing expenses to the boarding processes. The third one is the pilot service. So it also portrays the before and after. So before, the reserve guarantee was projected at $2.7 million over plan for the end of 2010, which is 18 pilots. And its reserve levels were set for higher block hours and lower operational performance. That was transformed into reduced plan reserves by 7.1%, which is 140 to 130. Then the reserve utilization increased by 6.1%. The pilot productivity also increased at 0.5 points and able to fly 4,892 block hours that may have gone uncovered in 2012. And lastly, it developed a monthly and annual process for planning reserves. And the last result is the Federal Inspection Center. So it increased the peak hour passengers capacity from 1,200 to 1,600. Two new flights at peak. It also reduced hold on board aircraft and reduced connect time to less than OAG published MCT, 90 minutes. So those are the results of the implementation and techniques on airlines.